So I'm sitting there waiting for him to come back, and I am completely overcome with fear, and I'm sweating. And the thought of having to fight this guy in his closed cell is absolutely, scaring the living daylights out of me.
Behind every tattoo, there's a story to be told, and these are just the highlights.
There I was in FDC, Philadelphia, Federal Detention Center. I was waiting to be sentenced, and I was on a block with about 140 people. And it was a real mishmash of, different people.
Sure.
A lot of African American, a lot of Spanish, very few white people. I grew up in a boxing gym, so I'm very comfortable, with all different nationalities. And some of my best friends are African American and Spanish. Through the years, I figured out that, we all bleed red. And, we train together, we work out together, we coach together, and just some of the best guys I've ever met. And unfortunately, in prison, things have a tendency to change. And the lines are very deep and very wide. It was a difficult period of time for me, very, very hard to get used to. I ended up having a cellie who was a Muslim, and he was Jamaican, and he had dreadlocks, and he had just gotten out of the hole, and he had been in and out of the system for, quite a period of time. He was probably 28 years old, about 200 pounds. I do my very best to get along with everybody. We were cellies for a period of maybe, 7, 8, 9 days. And then I came back to my cell, getting ready to be locked in, and I was writing some letters, and I realized that my stamps were missing. A couple of books of stamps. And stamps in prison is like money. And he came into the cell, and I questioned him. I said, "Hey, have you seen my stamps?" I just figured I dropped them, maybe fell into the bed or something like that. And right away he got very defensive with me. I said, "Listen, I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just saying I lost my stamps, and if you've seen them, let me know. Or if you do see them, let me know." So I finished my letters, and he's kind of agitated, and he hops up in his bunk, and I spend the rest of the night, looking through the cell, looking through my locker, trying to find the stamps, and they're gone. And there's a set of headphones that were missing and something else. And this is a problem because if I don't deal with it, I'm going to have problems in prison for the rest of my life.
Sure.
And the other problem was that he was a part of the Muslim community, and he was protected. So I couldn't make a move on this guy. I couldn't do anything until I had the opportunity to talk with the imam, who was the head of the Muslim community. And the Muslim community is probably the largest community, within the Pennsylvania, jail system. So I waited till the morning. The doors were open about 6 o'clock. I went downstairs, and I'm waiting for the imam to come out. And he doesn't normally get up till about 7:30 or so, so I'm sitting there drinking coffee, and all of a sudden he comes out of his cell, and he comes right to me, and he says, "Mr. Carr, I sense that there's something wrong." And I told him what happened. I said, "My stamps are missing, my earphones are missing, and I didn't lose them. There's nobody else in the world who could have taken him except for my cellie. It's a situation that has to be dealt with. And either you guys can deal with it or I will deal with it, but it's going to be dealt with." He said, all right, come on, let's go upstairs. So we go upstairs, and 4 or 5 Muslims, come up with us, and they wake him up, and my cellie right away goes through the roof. He's lying, he's just a fat old guy, he's walking around, he dropped them, I don't have any idea where they're at. And he was like really, just being inappropriate. So the imam said, "Mr. Carr, why don't you go downstairs? We're going to talk to him, and, just give us a couple minutes." So I go downstairs to the, first level, and I wait about a half hour. And the imam comes down with the other Muslims, and he comes to me and he says, "Listen," he said, "we're done with him. Whatever you have to do, you can do. And but he's not part of our community anymore." And I have to be honest with you, that was not, the answer that I was looking for. This guy was 28 years old, I'm 60, he's 200 pounds, I'm heavier than him, but I'm, older, out of shape, and I was really hoping that the Muslims would take care of it. And I was shocked because I couldn't imagine they were going to allow me to put my hands on one of their people. So I go walking back upstairs, and my cellie adios is from the cell, and it has to be dealt with in the cell, because if I don't deal with it in the cell, people will find out the fight happened, and we'll all get locked up, put in the hole. So I'm sitting there waiting for him to come back, and I am completely overcome with fear, and I'm sweating. And the thought of having to fight this guy in this closed cell is absolutely, scaring the living daylights out of me. I start praying. I just dear God, please give me the strength. Don't let me be a coward. Don't let me punk out here. Give me the strength to do what I have to do. It was a long 30 minutes. And, he finally came back in, and I stood up and walked right over to him and just punched him as hard as I possibly could. And when I hit him, it had no effect at all. And right away we start fighting, grabbing each other, holding each other, punching, and he drops down to his knees and he grabs a hold of my testicles and he starts squeezing. Initially, I felt the initial shock of that, but the pain was not all that, all that great. I don't know why. My adrenaline must have been going. So I just grab him by the head and just start, pounding on him as hard as I can. And, we're engaged in this mortal combat, scene for maybe, 2 or 3 minutes. Not a big, long period of time, but 2 or 3 minutes going full force, with a young guy like that is very, very tiring. He was exhausted. I was exhausted. He's trying to, hurt me there, and he sees that's not working, so he's getting up, and we're grappling, and we're punching, and we're doing what we're doing. And we ended up locking up. And then one of the Muslims from outside came in, and we're just holding on for dear life. Both of us are sweating and breathing heavy, and the guy says, "Are you guys done?" And I kind of pushed back a little bit. I said, "I don't know, are we done?" He goes, yeah, we're done. We're done. So I said, okay. So I step back, and with that, he sneaks me and hits me with a right cross left hook. Like, Now I'm pissed. Now I'm really pissed off. Before it was just a matter of pride and honor and, wanting to be able to, walk through the halls, without people talking about me bad. And I just went ballistic on this guy. I've been, fighting my whole life. I'm a Golden Gloves champ. I'm a USA kickboxing champ. I'm a grappler. I can fight. I may be old, but I can still fight. And I ended up, getting him in a headlock, and I just started pounding on his face, and then I started running his head into the wall as hard as I could. And, fortunately, he did have dreadlocks, and they cushioned the blow, and I stepped back, and then I just choked him out and dropped him to the floor. And that was, that's pretty much how it went down. And the people on the outside, everybody's, looking in that little window, and they're just like, they can't believe that, this is what just happened. And that was the end of it. Never had any problems after that, never received any problem from the Muslim community. They honored their word, and, it kind of changed my status in prison. After that fight I had with the Muslim kid, I had this Celtic sword, put on my arm in prison. Yes. And it was done by hand without a machine. And the guy was a Spanish guy, and what he did was plucking. And he got 3 staples and wrapped them together and inserted them into the head of the big pen. In order to make his ink and everything, he got a black chess piece, and he got some hair gel, and he made a little contraption, and he lit it up and he put a lid on top, and that chess piece burnt, and then they scraped the residue off the top of that little burning area, And they used some kind of Ivy soap or some kind of liquid soap, and they mixed it in with the remains of the ash and everything, and that's how they made the ink to do this. But this was actually, hand plucked, with a Bic pen and 3 staples.